Ladies and gentlemen, your sweet Zionist Prince Tall, the traveling clad, back here with another video. Today we're looking at a clip of Douglas Murray and Mosab Hasan Yousef. Let's take a look.
I remember speaking with you almost 10 years ago now, after a set of attacks in France, in Paris. There was the Charlie Hebdo attacks, the attack on a kosher supermarket, then the attacks when dozens of jihadists rampaged through Paris, massacred people at the Bataclan Theatre and the stadium and coffee shops. And I remember then asking you about, what does it take for the West to wake up to this reality? Because, you're aware of this reality because you grew up and you saw it firsthand, and you were a very unusual person in thinking your way out of it, which, is incredibly unusual. I would say that most Israelis today understand the reality that there's a group or groups of people who say, we want to kill you, and if they get the opportunity, they do. But the rest of the West seems to me, even all these years after we spoke about it, still is in a sleep. What would you say to Emmanuel Macron, Rishi Sunak, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris? What would you say to them to communicate to them that this is real?
One of the biggest contributors to terrorism and violence actually hypocrites. Because when we are hypocrites, we're not calling things for what they are. We see the Islamists' threat. We see what they're capable of doing. And when I say CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, other intelligence services in the West, most democracies in the West, they know the ideological dimension that motivates terrorists and terrorist attacks. But we prefer not to talk about it because it's Islamophobic, or because it's controversial, or we may offend the Muslims. So now we're submitting to their intimidation when we don't talk about it, when we don't challenge it, that this is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Life depends on diversity, and the different is appreciated. Yes, we should have human discipline because we are not animals, but also we don't want someone acting as a sword of God, because then everybody would think that they have this authority, and the only outcome is bloodshed. We have the Muslims who live in the West, and I think there is no problem with that in principle, but don't enforce your religious identity. And when they do, we have to counter it. Like, for example, we cannot separate church and state and allow mosque and state to be united. We cannot just stay asleep while watching the Islamic hubs produce more extremists. And today, we have so many Islamic fanatics who actually preach through social media, through YouTube, and they are based in London, they're based in Paris, and
Mosab is specifically pointing out right now to people like Muhammad Hijab, the Ali Dawas of the world. I want to touch on what he was talking about hypocrisy. Hypocrisy in the Muslim world, in the Arab world, I call this out almost every day in my videos, is rife. They are but the most hypocritical people on planet Earth. They're willing to genocide, apartheid, ethnically cleanse their own population, murder millions of each other, and turn a blind eye to it completely. But when one Palestinian who tries to stab a Jew is killed, they'll make it seem like the Messiah has come back, and that Jesus Christ's forthcoming is here, and that the devil has shed his skin and is ready to consume the entire world. Hypocrisy is at the heart of the Muslim Arab cause today. I don't believe it always has been, but I think that Muslim Arab society cannot progress without being hypocrites, or without fixing that hypocrisy. And on the other hand, the real hypocrisy lands on the Western people, the dummies in the West who are so racist, with the racism of low expectations, they expect so little from the brown Middle Eastern people that they allow unchecked and unfettered immigration into their nations, into their countries, on the basis of the fact that they're tolerant and open-minded, while being too scared to crack down on shitty behavior in the Muslim world and in the Arab world and Arab society. It's absolutely asinine. It is crazy. It is crazy. And how do you expect that people like that are going to immigrate into your countries? How do you expect that they're going to assimilate into societies if you don't help them do it? And if you just let extremism in mosques, which we know is rife, continue to fester?
They don't only advocate for a peaceful Islam, actually they are just preaching very dangerous, radical ideologies, the Muslim Brotherhood ideologies that is anti-West, that is anti-civilization, that is representing the 7th century mentality as an alternative to the modern world. And they are protected by the freedom of speech. But there has to be a limit to where you can preach such sick ideology. And I think most of the leaders are afraid, whether they are ignorant of the topic or they have short-term interest and they don't want to compromise this interest. They don't want to offend Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia or like Qatar. They have their own calculations, but in the meantime, we cannot hide from the challenge because Islamists are in the West and they are waiting for an angry cause. And this is the dangerous thing about the Palestine. This is why one of the reasons that I came back and I came very strong against the pro-Palestine, because it's not about Palestine. There is no such a thing as Palestine. It's anti-West, and it's looking for an angry cause. Yeah. And
for anybody who needs the direct calculation, it's not. Mosab is absolutely correct. It's not about Palestine. It's never been about Palestine. Ask the average Arab; they don't give a fuck about Palestine. They don't acknowledge as Palestine. One, Arabs generally do not believe Palestinians are real Arabs. Two, they do not believe that Palestinians are real Muslims. I'm not joking about this. Listen to me very clearly when I say, and I'll say this in every stream if I have to. There's these things. I'm basically just trying to brainwash you guys at this point to understand the reality. I spend all day, every day talking to Arabs and Muslims on the internet, on Omi TV, on my Instagram DMs. Arabs do not believe that Palestinians are real Arabs. Muslims do not believe that Palestinians are real Muslims. Muslims and Arabs are so racist against each other. They don't believe that one person living 14 kilometers away from them is a real Arab or a real Muslim. There are constant gunfights every night in Palestine and in Israel. Arabs on Arabs killing each other because they don't acknowledge that one is the real and the other one is the real. This has never been about Palestine. Arabs hate each other domestically in their own groups, but they are ready to activate. They are ready to activate as sleeper cells, like Mosab is saying, in honor of a cause, and usually that cause is the hatred of Jews, because they are taught from a very young age, and especially in their mosques, and even in the Quran, which I just recently finished reading, that Judaism and Jews are not the best. I'm not going to say outright that they're taught that Jews are the worst or horrible people, but there's a lot of questionable things in the Quran about Jewish status. And Mosab is right. It's like a sleeper cell almost, just ready to activate and go against a cause and be very, very dangerous. And that's the reality. That is the truth of what's actually going on here on the ground. I'm not saying that we need to put like a watchful eye on Arab Muslims, but unfettered immigration can cause really, really, really big issues in the future. And especially if you try to quell a population that's growing and festering an ideology in your country, in your nation. And if that ideology is left unchecked the way that we see it in the rest of the Arab Muslim world, it's a real problem. Coming together in honor of Palestine is just one thing, but coming together in destruction of the West, okay, that's another. And when what I was saying about the calculation was, Jews are like the first target, but Jewish people built Western society. Western society is built on the back of Jewish culture and religion. Western society is built on the backs of Israel. Israel is Western culture and society. All the countries you see in the West and all their morals and ideals, 99% of them come from Jerusalem and the Old Testament and the New Testament, which took place in Israel. So keep that in mind. When Muslims tell you they want to destroy the West or they want to destroy Israel, they're really telling you that they're coming for you next.
And the more anger they are able to generate, they're creating the climate for those individuals who have been waiting to act. So I don't want to say, what are we waiting for? Like another major terrorist attack? Then we are going to understand that we have an enemy within. I hope we don't get to that point. But let me tell you something. From my personal experience, when they start first shouting from the river to the sea, calling for Jewish genocide, it was no time before chaos. And it became suicide bombing attacks, became stabbings, it became mass shootings, it became, everywhere became a target. And Palestine is chaos. Islam is chaos. And of course, this is very hard to say, but I hope that we don't get to the point to see the things going completely out of control, to realize that we have individuals among us that we really need to leash, that they cannot take advantage of the freedom. There is a limit. You cannot advocate on behalf of terrorists and terrorist ideology by the name of freedom of speech. It's not acceptable.
You can't use freedom in a society to shut down freedom.
Absolutely, but because it's very hard to draw the line, and many people take advantage of this. Take, for example, after 9/11, Muslims went into the hiding for almost a decade or more than this. They just hiding their identity. And after October 7, it was just next day they start demonstrating against Israel and against the West.
In New York, in London, in Paris, everywhere.
Within a week, they showed so much aggression. And again, this is the bloodlust that I told you about, which is very strange. You look 9/11 and you look October 7, and what's after? Totally different outcomes. So why all this? And this hatred against the Jews that is attracting actually many Westerners who might have something in common, that they are all anti-Semites. And this is what's bringing the Islamists and the communists and could be the socialists even to work together. They have something in common, and that is their hatred towards Israel.
True.
But what many Westerners are not understanding, that this is not only anti-Israel, it's anti-success and it's anti-civilization. It's pro-chaos. This type of individuals and this type of movements, they thrive in chaos. They don't like order. In order, they die. And this is why they want to see more of the chaos.
Mosab hasn't.
I have so much respect for Mosab. He makes me emotional when I hear him talk. I want to meet this man someday and shake his hand. I'm honored that he's on our side. Like, I'm honored that he stands up for Israel and protects Israel. It's an honor. It's an honor to have you on our side, Mosab. I appreciate him so much for everything he says. He's such an intellectual. He's so knowledgeable on this stuff. I really cannot praise him highly enough. Thank you guys for watching my channel and supporting me, and I'll see you in the next one. I love you long time, class. Goodbye. If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat, or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.